Tyler Robinson, a young man raised inside a Mormon household by Republican parents, is now being accused of taking Charlie Kirk's life.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got him. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident.
Whatever your thoughts on this situation may be, I think there are 4 things that simply do not make sense, and that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. Now, let me start by saying what happened to Charlie Kirk was not only tragic, but it also traumatized millions of people around the world. Even if you hate him, I think we should agree that something like this absolutely cannot be allowed in this country. And the best way to stop this madness is to find out what exactly happened, but so far, I only have more unanswered questions. The biggest one has to be Tyler himself. Now, as I've stated earlier, he comes from a Mormon household, and according to the information available right now, his family is active in the church. His parents are registered Republicans and active voters in a county where President Trump won 75% of the votes. This probably explains why the governor made this strange remark.
You know, this bad stuff happens. For 33 hours, I was praying that if this had to happen here, that it wouldn't be one of us. That somebody drove from another state, somebody came from another country. Sadly, that prayer was not answered the way I hoped for. Just because I thought it would make it easier on us if we could just say, hey, we don't do that here.
I don't know how it would have made a difference to Charlie's family or fans if the shooter were from any other state, but whatever. The main thing is that Tyler did not come from a broken home, nor did he have some kind of tragic past.
Okay. Congratulations, you have been selected to receive the Resident Presidential Scholarship from Utah State University. The value of this scholarship is approximately $32,000. This scholarship is available for 4 years or 8 semesters.
A guy claiming to be his classmate also had this to say about him.
I went to school with this Tyler Robinson kid. I'll show y'all. That's him right there, Tyler Robinson. I'm not trying to clout chase, make this shit about me, but I'm not gonna say I knew this kid really well. I didn't know him very well at all, but I definitely saw him for 3 straight years in high school. And the best way I could describe him is just like a Reddit kid. I don't know, I feel like if you were in high school around that same time, and even probably now, 2018, and then those kinds of kids, but that's exactly what he was.
His neighbors, on the other hand, had nothing but good things to say about the guy.
He was always very quiet. He was very smart. He had just a real mellow personality.
Now, of course, some people will say that he was brainwashed by his crazy ultra-leftist friends. Now, here's where things get strange. Allegedly, the FBI found inscriptions on the bullet casings like they typically do. What they found was supposedly some carved jokes and gamer slang on these casings. But as per usual, we never know how seriously we can take these engravings. Even if these engravings were real and they helped explain his motive somehow, they do not explain how he acted on September 10th. In the affidavit of probable cause, they mention how Tyler was walking with a strange limp before the shooting, and this is confirmed by some of the CCTV security footage. The reason this bit is important is that a lot of people believe he was using his shirt and his pants to hide that Mauser bolt-action rifle, which is at least 40 inches long. This adds up since his backpack simply was not big enough to accommodate the 24-inch barrel of this rifle. However, this theory fails when you look at this footage. as you just saw, he was only holding what looked like a spare shirt in his hand. Again, this checks out since he apparently changed clothes on the roof.
Yes. So when he's first spotted on campus, he has different clothing on, and then he changes clothing on the roof.
Now, you gotta remember that he allegedly jumped from the roof and didn't break his leg, which tells me he was not hiding any type of rifle in his pants. So the question is, how did that rifle get to those woods? Once again, I'm only using the information I have available right now, so if you can answer this question, we would all appreciate it. But strange things about him don't just end here. We were told in the press conference about some messages he had left on Discord.
Investigators asked if he would show them the messages on Discord. He opened it and showed several messages to investigators and allowed investigators to take photos of the screen as each message was shown by Robinson's roommate. These photos consisted of various messages, including content of messages between the phone contact named Tyler with an emoji icon and Robinson's roommate's device. The content of these messages included messages affiliated with the contact Tyler, stating a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, messages related to visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel.
Discord later denied this claim with this statement to TMZ. The messages referenced in recent reporting about planning details do not appear to be Discord messages. These were communications between the suspect's roommate and a friend after the shooting, where the roommate was recounting the contents of a note the suspect had left elsewhere. This already confuses things, but it only gets weirder. If the governor is not wrong and Tyler was sending messages about retrieving guns and changing clothes, then he clearly was communicating with someone about this horrific act. But Governor Cox later said that he was working alone.
But every piece of evidence we have so far makes it very clear that the assassin acted alone.
How does that make sense? Also, they arrested him at 10 p.m. according to the booking sheet, but the president only told us about it the next day.
With a high degree of certainty, we have him in custody, right? In custody. Everyone did a great job.
We all know how eagerly people were waiting to hear about the arrest. Then why in the world did they wait so long to announce it on a morning talk show, especially when his own father had brought him in? And speaking of his father, I want to ask another question. Is the FBI simply useless? Look, I'm not saying the FBI is some miracle agency like it's shown in the media. However, what I saw in the last couple of days made me wonder if the FBI is even competent anymore. I mean, just like Luigi Mangione, the FBI was only able to give us mugshots and CCTV footage of the culprit. In fact, a day before this arrest, the governor pretty much told us in a press conference that they had no leads and needed our help.
We cannot do our job without the public's help right now. The public has answered our call for action. So far, we've received more than 7,000 leads and tips.
And don't even get me started on how Cash Patel has been acting. First off, I don't know why he was in the field, especially when he didn't even say one word during that press conference. He simply looked lost.
Sorry about that.
The only time he spoke, he had this to say.
The arrest is a testament to the dedication of good law enforcement being great, and partnerships in law enforcement, which I've tried to highlight as my tenure as the director of the FBI. To my friend Charlie Kirk, rest now, brother. We have the watch, and I'll see you in Valhalla.
From everything we know so far, they only caught this guy because his father recognized him from the footage and brought him in. Now, a lot of people have been praising his dad for his actions, but not everyone is in the same boat.
The father knew he's an accessory. That's why he turned him in. It's not some great Christian good. He raised a demon. He raised a demon. He knew they were going to close in and eventually get the kid. And if he hadn't turned him in, he was going to be arrested.
Personally, I think Steve Bannon might just be wrong here, but as you can see, even this part of the story is not sitting right with everyone. The third question about this whole situation concerns the president himself. We all know that President Trump was quick to release a statement about this tragic situation.
To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America.
Then why is he suddenly trying to move past this tragedy as if it never even happened? I mean, surely you have noticed how he changed the conversation whenever Charlie is mentioned.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie. How are you holding up for the last 3.5 years?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House.
Look, I'm not asking the president to be crying his eyes out every time someone mentions Charlie, but he does seem to be acting a little strange considering what's going on. Don't forget, he also faced a similar situation about a year ago, and Charlie was one of the people who not only stood behind him, but also brought in a lot of votes to his camp. Now, there is a chance that the president is trying to move past this tragedy to avoid any more bloodshed. If you've been on social media, you would know that on one end, people are actually celebrating what happened to Charlie. On the other end, people want similar violence directed at liberal influencers. It's terrible. Let's be clear, both sides are in the wrong here. A young father was brutally murdered in broad daylight in front of thousands of people, and if you're celebrating this, you're sick. But also, this does not mean that we need to create a never-ending cycle of violence over this. And this brings me to my last question. Why does it feel like someone is trying to start a conflict in this country? I mean, surely you remember that only a few days ago, the country was horrified by what happened to that Ukrainian woman on the train.
Now to a disturbing crime on a commuter train in North Carolina, where a young woman was murdered by a stranger.
In addition to the failure of the justice system here, there's a failure of our safety system within our public transportation here in Charlotte.
That situation made no sense whatsoever. I mean, the guy was diagnosed as a schizophrenic and his own mother wanted him gone because he was so dangerous, and yet the authorities allowed him to stay on the streets. And let's not even get started on the whole magistrate situation, because that's a whole different can of worms.
Did you know the judge that released this guy didn't even go to law school? Yeah, not even a lawyer. Yeah, these magistrate judges that are making a decision to release these people without bail, yeah, they're not even lawyers. They didn't go to law school. They didn't pass the bar. They just got appointed to be judges. No training required. Oh yeah, and that's the case in states like North Carolina, South Carolina, West Virginia, Texas, Arizona. They don't even have to be lawyers, but they can be judges. They don't have to go to law school. They don't have to pass the bar. However, they sit in judgment over people who did. How the fuck is this a thing? How the fuck do we have judges who didn't even study the law? How did this ever become a thing? That's one of the most insane things I've ever heard.
The guy who committed that horrifying crime is now saying that he was exposed to something that made him do what he did. While this guy might just be really sick in the head, we cannot ignore how his actions created a storm of hate and anger in this country. So from what I can see, we need to find out what's happened in both these high-profile cases. Unfortunately, so far, the people in power have only created more confusion, and that's never a good thing after a tragedy like this one. You guys always have such great insight on every issue, so make sure to leave your comments down below. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a like, subscribe, and make sure to tune in to the next one.